It's patch day, gamers. It is January 13th, 2026, first Guild Wars 2 patch of the year. And it is indeed the balance patch. We already went over the preview changes that were in the preview, and those are all gone through. They've gone through, guys. Nobody panic. Okay, they have gone through. I've already talked about this. We're not going to go over every change here. We're mostly going to talk about the new stuff and probably the implications for some of the changes that have ended up happening. But here is the quick theme. I was expecting the numbers to go down a little bit on quite a lot of builds, and to be fair, some of them have. However, I have very good news. If you guys love doing 50k DPS, then oh boy, don't worry about it. You're still going to have that done. In fact, some classes are actually getting better this time around. Very, very exciting. But we have got some more changes as well. Kind of focus on like nerfing Engineer in World vs. World, which I think is very well needed. A couple of more PvP tuning tweaks, right? And World vs. World tuning tweaks is kind of what's going on here a little bit. In addition to the additional changes that we had there as well. And also some antiquary changes as well. You know, like this build is absolutely disgusting, is getting nerfed a little bit. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. Let's talk about the new stuff. And then after you've gone through the new stuff, we'll talk about how it interacts and maybe some predictions for the metagame. So first up, some Engineer nerfs for World vs. World. So why is this happening? Well, Engineer has been very dominant as a DPS in World vs. World for a long time now, actually. So damage going down on this, honestly, very glad to see it. Because this is just, you know, it's good to shake things up a little bit. Glass cannon damage going down, less crit from high caliber, hematic focus, less crit goes down as well. And object in motion and applied force giving you less damage output for Scrapper and all Engineer builds. Every single Engineer spec was amazing as DPS. Hollow, Amalgam, Scrapper were all pumping insanely hard. Maybe not mech so much, but yeah, it's good to turn that down a little bit. You would just get randomly one-shot by an Engineer. Not that much fun. So hopefully this kind of opens things up a little bit for other DPS options, because Engineer was like really crowding it out and has been for quite a while. So honestly, we'd like to see that. And in terms of PvP, Amalgam is actually getting a nerf. And the nerf is actually fairly significant. Like, just the TLDR is, I actually think this kind of pushes Amalgam away from the metagame in PvP, because as we'll see later on, other things haven't been nerfed. And of course, there's been some pretty big buffs, in particular to Warrior, that I think kind of move Amalgam out of the meta, at least a new build, unless a new build has come up. So Spear 2, Burning Sack's halved. That's massive. Way less throughput when you're utilizing your Spear 2 to continually pressure the opponent. Devastator cooldown goes up to 25 seconds and 3-2 burning, just much less burst damage across the board. And the defensive potential is also getting nerfed significantly too. Defensive protocol, protect, 30-second cooldown up from 25. Cleanse protocol up to 30 from 25. Gaseous state up to 40-second cooldown from 30. And double helix increases the cooldown of evolve in World vs. World and PvP. So significantly less damage, particularly burst, and significantly less sustain. And again, like I said, that wouldn't be problematic, right, on its own. But the thing is that if we scroll down here, there aren't really any DPS Troubadour nerfs here. And if we, you know, Elementalist didn't even get any additional changes, there's no additional changes to Evoker, for example, right? Luminary did get a bit of a tap, and there are some significant nerfs that we'll get into in a moment. But this, I think, makes Amalgam a lot weaker in PvP, especially because its kind of role was a side noder, kind of like a 1v1 build that could also dabble in the team fight, apply a lot of condition pressure in the mix. But surprise, surprise, guys, okay? If you're a Warrior main, you might be excited, because it turns out that, you know, from what I've been hearing in Twitch chat, some top PvP players have been here, and they've actually been telling me that Power Paragon with Greatsword Spear is kind of a monster right now in the 1v1, playing strength and defense and Paragon, potentially being the top 1v1 build, actually, given the fast hands change, not shackling you together with the discipline trait line, allowing you to take defense, getting that sustain, and having strength for massive damage with the spear and the greatsword. Of course, a nice little change to spear, to greatsword, getting that immobilized to help you line up your greatsword F1 is also really helping out there as well, and the kind of comboing that with the spear too. But you've still got that very strong defensive potential with the defense straight line. You can have a lot of condicons there, and obviously loads of sustain too from the adrenal health. So Warrior actually looking pretty good. And I'll tell you what, now I'll actually believe this when I see it. I need to do a bit of research on this. We've got to figure this out. But apparently support Paragon is also still going strong. And that, I actually like that build a lot in PvP. I was really worried about the Star 5 being nerfed, but all the other supports got nerfed, and Warrior actually hasn't in PvP. Luminary, for example, over here is getting healing reductions on its F2, the Radiant Resolve, and Big, the Staff cooldown is going up to 20 seconds in PvP, which is a very significant change. That was a massive part of the sustain. Less mobility as well with Gleaming Blade. So you have, it's going to be a bit easier to chase that down and get that, get the kiting potential reduced a little bit on Luminary. This was a very, very tanky build. And pretty significant nerfs did go through to Mesmer as well. If we scroll down, they actually nerfed the healing quite a bit actually on Troubadour. Hold on, where is it? Oh yeah, so yeah, Raconteur is going down, Harmonious Harp, Tail of the Second Scion as well, Altered Chord, all of those things actually significantly being reduced in PvP. So bear in mind, every support has taken some fairly significant nerfs, except support Paragon. So even though it potentially doesn't have, it has a little bit less sustainability with that block, the other supports are also having similar changes that take it in that direction at the same time. Bear in mind, Paragon was already good before the patch and hasn't really changed that much outside of losing that block in the PvP context on the support build there at least. So there's actually a lot of potential for support Paragon to also do extremely well in the metagame. It already had the monopoly on offensive potential. It gave crazy boons, loads of might, loads of protection, right? Loads of good stuff to empower your allies. And now it's going to have all of that good stuff and the other supports are going to be nerfed. So honestly, look, Paragon, it might be its time to shine in PvP, guys. How exciting is that? We absolutely love to see that. But yeah, Luminary here as well also got some pretty significant nerfs in PvP. Because we actually see that a lot of cooldowns going up again. All of the healing reductions and sustain reductions also apply to the DPS build. Bear that in mind. Same with the damage output on Lucent Thrust. Effulgent stance, less barrier. Stalwart stance and Stun Break, really good Stun Break too with the damage reduction component. Cooldown goes up on that as well. So, and the biggest one here is the Dazzling Hammer. This is the second skill in Shroud, or the Shroud 2 basically, or Forge 2, was completely deleting people out of nowhere. The power coefficient is going down a lot, down to 0.3. Now, bear in mind, this skill has a lot of components. You have the Dazzling Hammer, but you also have the Explosion if you use it with an empowered F1, and you have the spin afterwards, right? Like you have the spin move afterwards. So I want to be very clear. Luminary is still very strong in PvP. It's just not disgusting. Like before this patch, guys, you were running like 2-3 Luminaries, yeah? In the PvP meta, because it was just so broken. It could heal, it could DPS, right? It was pretty mobile. It could like leap around all over the place. It gave AoE boons, right? It was doing it all. It was completely disgustingly overpowered build. And now the damage is coming down a lot on that. It looks like they want to make it more of a hybridy, supporty, brawlery thing. Willbender being the ultra high DPS burst build. Now, to be fair, I do still think that Luminary is going to pack a serious punch, actually, after these changes, but it's going to have more counterplay because a lot of the damage is going to be on the secondary components of Dazzling Hammer rather than the initial burst, and it's just going to be a little bit more sane. In terms of the output that it's going to have. Also some nerfs in World versus World, basically to just tone down the amount of virtue spam. Illuminating Inspiration, recharge reduction when you use a Forge ability on your virtues goes from 3 to 2. It originally was 4, bear that in mind, that's fun. And Valorous Stance, cooldown goes up for less stability and less healing uptime there as well. And also a healing reduction there on Radiant Armaments there. So again, less healing, less boon output. Let's be honest, World versus World can definitely do with that. Now, here's where things get fun. We talked about World vs. World, we talked about PvP. What about PvE? Well, great news. Power Luminary is absolutely broken. There was a bit of a rework to the Zeal trait line where some traits got made baseline and a brand new Grandmaster that gives you damage and movement speed while you have Fury, and it spawns an extra symbol when you use your F1. Turns out it's completely insane. This build, I think, is around 50k DPS right now, and bear in mind, you've still got all of that Luminary goodness. I actually think that the rotation is a bit weird, and I think that's one of the reasons why it hasn't actually been that popular after VOE. But if you can get past that, I think this is probably one of the strongest builds that exists right now. It does crazy healing while doing its DPS rotation. It's giving AoE damage reduction. You're a Guardian, so you can take good Guardian abilities. You can heal people. You can give Aegis to people. You have massive burst damage, massive cleave. You're insanely tanky on this build as well. It's a crazy tanky build, in addition to all of the other stuff that I mentioned. Yeah, Power Luminary, busted. Power Alack Luminary, busted. Powerful DPS Luminary, also busted. Incredibly strong builds. And that's going to be a bit of a running theme here, by the way. Like, some things have come down in damage a little bit. We're not in 60k DPS full Mickey Mouse. We've just gone to Disneyland with about 50k on a lot of stuff. So we're still mega power crept after VOE. I'm hoping we're going down more. But because, look, slight derail here, guys. Slight derail here, but I am a little bit concerned about this. There has been a huge amount of power creep with VOE, and we are, you know, we're nearly 3 months into this expansion, and it has not been addressed. That is a concern for me, guys. I admit that, because I do think that power creep is ultimately bad for the game. It means that old content is invalidated, which it absolutely is. Like if you go into, like, here's an example, guys. So, I did some casual Wing 8 CMs, and we flattened them. And bear in mind, like, Wing 8 CMs are no joke. And we played with 8 Ritualists and obliterated those CMs. It was a joke. It was a complete joke. And bear in mind, that's one expansion ago. So Jamthewar's content that was, you know, pretty meaty, it's, you know, challenging stuff, flattened by VOE specs. That to me is a problem, right? That is a concern. I don't think I'm being, you know, oh, you know, you're a sweaty tryhard people. That to me is a problem. Because the whole point of Guild Wars 2 is that this content stays around, that this content is relevant forever and is engaging and fun to play forever. And to be honest, I'm really struggling with PvE right now, guys. I really do believe this. Like, PvE for me is less fun because even content from an expansion ago is just so much easier than it was. And that's not even talking about the stuff from Heart of Thorns and Path of Fire. It's meme tier difficulty at this stage. And obviously I get it. Like, raiding is ultimately a very niche activity. But yeah, it kind of feels bad, right? It does feel bad to me when, you know, fights that I used to find fun are boring now because they are just so easy to complete because of how powerful you are as a player, which is really, really unfortunate. But yeah, it is what it is. You hate to see that. And yeah, we see a little bit of this here as well, actually. They do nerf Condi Conduit, but, well, guys, I got good news. Power Conduit is now juiced up. Feels good, man. Power Conduit is 50k DPS now. Condi Conduit is probably more close to 50k now. Some pretty significant nerfs there. Abyssal Chill. This is the chill when Torment when you chill. Duration goes down. Hexeater Vortex, Twin Moon Sweep, Release Potential, Bolstered Bonds, Misfire. All gets nerfed quite significantly for the condition output, but this build is still going to be really strong. Don't get me wrong, just going to be nerfed significantly. So yeah, but turns out Power Conduit is absolutely sick. Bear in mind, you can play Power Quickness Conduit now if you like, actually, with the new Grandmaster trait that got added. It's not here in the notes. It's in the preview notes, right? If you want to see my opinion on that, you can go and watch the old video there as well. I don't know what to tell you. Yep. Next up is going to be Thief here. So a lot of these changes are actually targeted to nerf, in particular, the short bow spam, like a daze spam Thief. It is probably one of the most anti-fun, the most anti-skill, and obnoxious builds ever to have been added to the game. So good to see it nerfed. I don't think it's actually that good anymore. Looks like Thieves are going to be moving to a different build, potentially Spear. Instead of the short bow, which honestly I'm very happy about because this is like a really, really anti-fun build, was the short bow daze spam build. Antiquary, we'll have to see how this one pans out because apparently it actually doesn't do super well into Paragon. So this actually might push Antiquary a little bit out of the meta. Is it playable 1,000,000%? Like, to be clear, this is, I think it just might not be meta anymore because this build was previously meta. As a 1v1 or like a duelist build. I'm not sure if it will remain as competitive as it is now. It might go back, maybe a different type of build, actually. A different type of build, maybe with some kind of roaming in it, or maybe back to Daredevil, potentially. Or indeed, Spectre could also come back if you need that Thief in your team comp for that mobility, for that map pressure. But I do think that the 1v1 Antiquary build has been significantly nerfed here, because Chak Shield, Initiative Refund on using skills, 50% in PvP and World versus World. Hollow Dancer Decoy, 50% cooldown reduction on a utility skill. That's now 33%. Exalted Hammer, base healing is going down there as well. Just kind of across the board. Enterprising Aristocrat, reduce your initiative gain. Meticulous Custodian, you don't get increased stacks of the beneficial artifact effects anymore. Yeah, very aggressive nerfs to this build. Makes it way less unfair than it was previously. It is still strong though, so, you know, I think it will still see a little bit of play. And then a lot of these changes here are basically just nerfs in PvE, because this build was doing crazy DPS. It's now been nerfed down a little bit, with Mistburn Mortar and Forge Surfer Dash getting nerfed as well. So yeah, good changes here to Antiquary in PvP. We'll still be doing good damage in PvP. I wouldn't worry about that. It is still a niche build, to be fair. So it's one of those ones where you think, did it even really need a nerf in PvE? You could honestly argue that it's one of those things that you can leave it a little bit busted, a little bit OP. Although, to be honest, look, I don't even know how to describe if something's overpowered anymore when we're living in a world of 50k, 60k DPS. Like, I don't know what to tell you. But we'll have to see what the numbers pan out, but I think it will still be playable. 100%. So the Ranger stuff also happened as well. Nothing really extra happening here, just like great sword buffs coming through. They of course did that Beast Mastery rework, and I think that's got some potential actually as a DPS build. You can get that Lesser Sikkim for a 40% damage burst whenever you use a beast skill, and I think something like that has got to have some potential. Like, Ranger is a super bursty build in terms of power, anyway, so being able to line up even more additional massive bursts is going to be big. Now, bear in mind, there is a bug with the Lesser Sikkim right now, so be aware of that. Like, it might take a while for accurate numbers to come out, because apparently it's not working correctly as of right now. So we might have to wait a little while to see how this develops with Go for the Throat. This is the new Beastmaster Grandmaster, right? But we will see what's going on with that one. Yes, we will. Now, let's talk about Mesmer next. We already talked about the nerfs to support Troubadour, but you know what didn't get nerfed? That's right, DPS Troubadour, which is turbo disgusting in PvP. It randomly one-shots you, it does insane damage constantly, and good news, you didn't get nerfed. If you pick that class to play, you're God mode. Similarly is actually Evoker. DPS Evoker in PvP didn't get nerfed. I actually think, personally, I think people were sleeping on it. I think it got nerfed once and people stopped playing it. I think they were too hasty. If you watch a good Evoker actually play DPS Evoker, it looks unstoppable. And now, again, especially with some of the other nerfs to Luminary, to Amalgam, again, these very strong DPS specs for Visions of Eternity in PvP, I think Evoker and Troubadour are going to be absolutely feasting on people. They are going to be devouring ranked. They're going to be devouring automated towards all that kind of stuff. Crazy strong. Really surprised not to see actually Troubadour nerfs in particular. I'm really surprised not to see. But that didn't really, it just didn't happen. Now, let's talk about the Chrono stuff in PvE, shall we? So, of course, we know this, and if we scroll all the way down, you can see that Chronomancer, of course, did get nerfed, right? Like, a lot of the CC went down. A lot of the healing went down across the board on Chronomancer, and some traits got jiggled around. You can see here, Precog cooldown goes up 60 seconds. Well of Senility Days duration. Gravity Well CC is going down as well. Mental Collapse CC is going down. Sharpshooter, you only get 2 instead of 1 on Rifle. Signet of Humility goes down there as well. Now, here's the thing. The problem with Chronomancer in general, I think, is that the utility on Mesmer is just insane. Particularly when it comes to stab, actually. I think stability is a really big part of the support metagame in PvE right now, and Chronomancer is still gonna be very dominant on that. It lost its stability on Distort, it got moved to Continuum Shift, but you still got Mantra of Concentration, you still got improved Alacrity. Wall of Precog is still a good skill, it's just less ridiculous. At a 20-second cooldown with Alacrity, it was beyond overpowered. 60 seconds is 40 seconds with improved Alacrity. And bear in mind, that's Pulsing Aegis, Endurance Regeneration, it stun breaks you, and it gives 3 stacks of stability AoE. Like, that is still a skill that most classes would take as their elite. Okay, right? So this is still a crazy good skill, just not as completely overpowered as it was previously. So will it nudge the metagame in PvE? Honestly, it's more of an encounter design thing. Its healing is very mediocre compared to other options. If you think about healing, Troubadour is better, Firebrand is better at this point, Druid is way better at healing, but it really is that pure boon throughput, particularly on stability and the utility. You have Portal, you have Feedback, right? You have Rifle as well, which is amazing. Like the Rifle Portal, being able to like bring people back is really strong. So to be honest, I think Mesmer is still gonna be kind of in that S tier position from a PvE perspective. There's another thing, guys, that's important to discuss here. There's always going to be some inertia with the PvE meta because every strat that people do for hard content is based around Mesmer. Yeah, that the Mesmer, you guys aren't beating the allegations. But think about Ceres CM, Aura CM. People use Rifle Portal to rescue people from sulfuric geysers on Aura. The entirety of Ceres is oriented around Mesmer. The entirety of Harvest Temple CM is oriented around Mesmer, right? So the problem is that not only does Chrono still have incredible utility with a trade-off of significantly more mediocre healing and weakened CC, the utility and the strategic application of Mesmer is still basically second to none. And bear in mind, there aren't really a lot of healing checks in Guild Wars 2. So utility is king. So nerfing healing doesn't really change that much a lot of the time. We'll have to see how it actually turns out. Like, you know, but realistically, strats need to be developed that utilize other classes' utility, or you need to shift it onto a DPS Mesmer, but you're not getting away from Mesmer, right? Like, Portal's pretty good, as it turns out. So I think we're not entirely out of the woods here, but I do think that bringing the CC and healing down does actually help to try to push things in the right direction. But I do still think that improved alacrity is problematic. I was kind of surprised to see that not get nerfed, actually, or even potentially removed, because I think improved alacrity is a really big issue when you combine it with the rest of the Chronomancer kit. I do think that the Mantra of Concentration might need a little bit of a look as well, or just stability improvements on other classes. Like, I don't really mind having really strong stability tools on multiple classes, that's fine. But Mesmer's, look, you've got Stab on Druid and Chrono's just better. You've got Stab on Tempest and Chrono's just better, right? Way better as well. And it's like, well, you either have to give them some of the good stuff, or you're gonna have to remove even more of it here, right? Like, the problem is that Chrono just doesn't really have that much of a weakness, to be honest. It's just so well-rounded and so flexible that it's very hard to replace in your comp, particularly because it can do a lack in quickness as well. That allows it to effortlessly synergize with any power boon DPS as well. Oh, you want to play a Luminary Alacrity DPS? Great, play quickness on your heal Chrono. Oh, you want to play a quickness Herald? Great, play Alacrity, right? Like, it's very, very flexible, so it's just indispensable in the PvE meta. So I don't think I really see a lot of changes really coming through here. But yeah, that's kind of a lot of the changes. Did we actually miss anything? Not really. In other news, Weaver Spear is actually pretty cool, okay? Praise be to the Weaver Spear changes. Now Spear actually works on Weaver. Previously it didn't, because a lot of the traits on Weaver, you need to hit someone with a dual skill to get a bonus. You couldn't do that on Spear before because the dual skills were all like, you know, defensive procs, right? They didn't do any damage. Now they actually have some really fun skills. These are quite cool. I think in these will definitely have some potential, I think, for a DPS build in World versus World. I struggle to see it in PvP, to be honest, just because Evoker, I think, will just be better. And Weaver in general is just, I don't think, look, VOE specs are kind of on a level of their own, to be honest. So it's hard for me to imagine Spear Weaver doing well. I think it's going to be too vulnerable. It's just not going to have the ability to survive and deal its damage in the current metagame, but who knows? Maybe I'm completely off base on that one too. But yeah, that is pretty much the summary of the changes. Let's kind of go through what's happening here. I think Amalgam is losing big in PvP, unfortunately. Warrior is winning big in PvP from the duelist perspective. Support perspective, we'll have to see, but I actually think it does have some potential to be extremely competitive, especially if there's some way to make up for the loss of defensive potential on staff in some other way. So we'll have to see what people cook up. Definitely be watching out for what Goku's playing on support warrior there as well. But yeah, DPS 1v1 duelist Paragon is looking amazing right now. Luminary nerfed basically in PvP and World versus World. I think still very good in both of those game modes, both from a DPS and support perspective. In PvE, buffed, I think it's insane right now. So good news if you're a DPS Luminary fan. Chrono, I think still basically gonna be a very, very kind of go-to default choice for support in PvE. Troubadour, I think has actually been hit quite hard in PvP, actually. There's some pretty aggressive nerfs to the healing potential of Troubadour, and I think it's the weakest of the supports in PvP right now, like the meta supports, right? It's, you know, it's definitely playable, but I think I'd definitely want a Paragon or a Luminary over the Troubadour at this stage from the PvP perspective. Good news though, DPS Troubadour is absolutely insane, so good news there. And yeah, Troubadour in PvE might be a little bit better now because Chrono is worse, so it might be able to find some way to get itself into the mix there and provide some value in PvE because it still has that Mesmer utility. You've still got Rifle, you've still got Portal, you've still got great stability application. I'd say better stability even than Chronomancer at this stage, actually, because of the way that the Bountiful of Disillusionment interacts with Crescendo as opposed to Continuum Shift. So you've got really good output there in terms of your stability. Well, at least comparable, maybe not better. That's maybe a little bit ambitious because you don't have improved alacrity, but it's still very good. Needless to say, and you can take the stability shout as well. So you've got that going for you. So, you know, you can kind of make it happen with that one too. Ranger, fun fact, guys, Gale Shot is actually really good in PvP. It was one of those builds that was kind of getting cooked up a little bit. There weren't a lot of people playing Ranger in general. There aren't that many Ranger mains in the game anymore. And yeah, Gale Shot is actually great in PvP, amazing in ranked, and actually very strong in competitive play as well. Bear in mind, it didn't really get nerfed in PvP and other things did, so expect Gale Shot to remain incredibly strong. Obviously, did get nerfed in PvE, and this is confusing. Gale Shot got nerfed quite a bit in PvE, I think, and maybe the Beast Mastery changes can kind of save it a little bit. We'll have to see how that kind of works out. But Gale Shot got nerfed in PvE, and meanwhile, other things are still doing 50k DPS. I don't know. It is what it is. Revenant, Power Conduit, insanely strong in PvE. Conduit does get nerfed, but it's still going to be very strong, probably hovering around the 50k DPS mark. I can't tell just from the numbers, but that's what I will be guessing. Antiquary, probably a build shift in PvP away from Shortbow as the meta choice. Shortbow still works, but it's a lot less obnoxious in general. This build was complete cancer. I love to see it. Nerf it more, ArenaNet, delete it from the game. Feels good, man, as well. And of course, still going to be solid in PvE despite getting nerfed. Yeah, we talked about Warrior a little bit, but yeah, I think really exciting time for Warrior mains, actually. That fast hands, the 5-second weapon swap being baseline, I think is really opening up a lot of options. Like I said, Strength Defense Paragon looking really good right now. Support Paragon still looking strong as well, and I imagine there'll be other builds being cooked. I think Berserker might need a little bit more help. I'm not super confident in Berserker as of right now. Maybe some kind of Condi build with Relic of Akeem can rear its ugly head and get some work done, but I think it's going to struggle with its adrenaline economy a little bit, but we'll see if any of the chefs in Warrior HQ can cook something interesting out of that one. And in PvE, I think Paragon needs a bit more CC as the support. Look, this is going to be a little bit of a hot take. Paragon is weird in PvE because it's a healer. It has insane boon uptime. It has great healing, great boon output, but it really lacks in the utility. It needs a reflect. It needs something it can do, right? And that's where it doesn't really have. Its CC is also fairly mediocre as well, which I think really doesn't help it, because in general, having really strong CC on a healer is very important. But at the end of the day, I think it just needs another pass. It needs probably needs a bit more work, but still a very strong build, by the way. I feel like I'm underselling it. Like, support Paragon in PvE is actually very good. I would recommend trying it. If you like that sort of thing, then you should go for it, or don't. It's up to you. Elementalist, I guess, is the last class we talk about. Big win by not getting nerfed in PvE. I think PvP. I think that build is incredibly good in PvP right now. Same in World vs. World. Like, some artillery evoker builds are kind of cranking right now, absolutely going berserk. And I think that new arcane trait is actually really going to help out with that, by the way. Let me see if I can scroll up and see the arcane trait. Yeah, so this one here, Bountiful Power. This trait has been reworked. Gain charges when switching attunements. At 5 charges, you get quickness and increased strike damage for a duration. So yeah, for any kind of artillery build in World vs. World, really nice pickup. You're going to be absolutely slamming with that and dealing massive damage, casting your spells really, really quickly and doing big, big DPS if you want to be, a big DPS pumper elementalist. And yeah, in PvP, still doing really well by not getting nerfed. PvE, I think, Evoker is not necessarily bad in PvE. I think people just don't like the rotation, because of course they did nerf some stuff about it, and that of course changed it rotationally, especially the specialized elements builds. So I think people really don't like that. Unlucky, guys. You don't worry, I'm sure they'll fix it, right? All right, come on, guys. You're getting another another quick micro serving of slop. Some cool quality of life changes also made it into the game. A UI option got added, so you can hide nameplates of minions, pets, and similar summons. Actually really nice for World vs. World, to be honest, and PvE, just declutter things. And reward boxes in World vs. World now use the vendor UI, allowing several of these boxes to be opened at once. That's going to be the ones where you've got to click, select, click, select, click, select. Big change. And Roy did this change as well, because Roy is in charge of rewards. Therefore, Roy, once again, saves Guild Wars 2 completely solo. We love to see that. Fantastic stuff. That's it. Micro slop out. And I guess for a bit of a wrap up here, I do want to be I do want to complain a little bit, guys, okay? We are actually going to do a little bit of complaining. Are you guys ready for just a hair, just a smidgen of complaining? I do find it a little concerning that numbers are not being addressed as quickly as I like. Make no mistake, and this to me is concerning, especially in PvP, but in all game modes as well. VOE specs are still going to be extremely dominant in every game mode. And that is actually a little bit bothersome to me, guys. I will admit that, because this is supposed to be a horizontal game. This is not supposed to be, if you want to be meta, you need to play the latest and greatest that comes with the expansion. And look, I hate to be that guy, but I am going to be that guy. I am a little bit concerned with Visions of Eternity in terms of fixing issues that have been released with the expansion, both in terms of balance and in terms of world polish. We still have issues with the metas being unrewarding. There are still bugs in the open world and so on. This is a concern for me. because Visions of Eternity really came out swinging. Amazing expansion, much better than Soto and Janthir was combined. Elite specs, really fun to play. And that's fine. It's fine to be broken. I don't mind it. I get it. Like, have stuff be broken for the first month. I got no issue with that, guys. That's how it goes. We all know it. That's not a problem to me. But it is concerning when we're nearly 3 months in and all of the new stuff is just flat busted still. Especially in PvP, because I'll tell you what, guys, I've been playing a bit of PvP recently, and you know what's interesting? A lot of people don't have the expansions. And I've been playing Ritualist, Luminary, Evoker, and dude, when people without VOE try to fight me, it's comical almost, right? They are so much weaker. It's it's a bit depressing, to be honest, right? As their feeble abilities try and fight back against my juiced up Visions of Eternity build. Yeah, I want to see this addressed. And to be clear, I don't think ArenaNet's doing it on purpose. I just think they're just under-resourced when it comes to balance. I don't think that. I don't think ArenaNet is this company. I know that people are jumping to the conclusion of, oh, well, they're doing it to make you buy this expansion. I really do not believe that. I really do think that this is just an area of the game that is understaffed and under-prioritized. Right? We've got 36 elite specializations in the game now, and you've got core on top of that. And we have got competitive game modes. We've got PvP. We've got world versus world. We have a speedrunning community in the game. Balance is important to some of the most dedicated players who love the game the most. This needs to be addressed better. This needs to be controlled better in the game. It absolutely does. And this... I don't even necessarily like hate a lot of these changes. Like the trait reworks are actually really fun. I think they're cool design on a lot of these, but these numbers are out of whack, to be honest, and they still are. That is bothersome. I don't want to be doing 50k DPS and trivializing old content in the game. I don't want to be just deleting people because they don't have the expansion, as opposed to me outplaying them in a competitive game mode. Like that is not ideal for me. So yeah, I don't know. I could ramble on about that a little bit more, but I really hope that ArenaNet realize this is a big priority and they should prioritize this more. And in my opinion, they probably need more developers working on the skills team to develop balance. Now, to me, this is a very extreme example, but look, it's the obvious one, right? For example, in World of Warcraft, they often have a developer who works on one spec, right? And there's a lot of specs in that game, right? Like, you know, you've got 3 specializations, sometimes even 4 actually, in the case of Druid for a class. And yeah, they have developers dedicated to working on this, right? And trust me, even they don't get it right quite a lot of the time, right? And they got a lot of people working on this. So I think that we do need more people, more developers whose responsibility is to make sure that stuff is well balanced in the game, because it is important, in my opinion, for the enjoyment of players that stuff has parity. You want to have that build variety. You want to have theorycraft. You want to have loads of different options and variety with what builds that you can play and be really, really effective with, especially obviously in competitive modes. At the end of the day, right, you know, if you play like a kind of crappy DPS and PvE, like the content's not hard enough for it to matter, right? I get it. But in PvP and World vs. World, that's obviously very much the case. Very much not the case. You need to have good balance there in order to have parity between different classes, between different builds in the game. So yeah, that's basically my extended outro. I think I've got the point across. If you haven't got the point by me saying that, then I don't know what to tell you. Maybe I just can't speak, or maybe you can't listen. I don't know. But yeah, that's basically the situation. That's the balance patch. Pretty exciting stuff. I guess. Oh, yeah, you can do Fractal Rush again, guys. That's pretty hype, actually. You can go get your legendary gloves and farm your Fractaline Dust. Very exciting. Get prepared mentally for the Raid Quick Play coming up with the first update, which is going to be February 3rd, about 20 days from now. So stay tuned for that one. But yeah, there you go. That is the balance patch, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoy it. What do you think of the patch? Do you guys like power creep? Do you hate power creep? You guys let me know. Leave your comments. You got, once again, if you're watching live on Twitch right now, I baited you into watching a YouTube video. You fools, you clowns, okay? But honestly, nothing more appropriate than clowning and fooling around, seeing as we now live in Guild Wars 2 Disneyland balance. We love to see that. But anyway, that's good enough for me, guys. I'll see you in the next one. A lot more content to come, actually. I'm taking a little bit of time off over the next couple of weeks, but trust me, I have a plan. The content is being cooked, and we're going to have some serious, fat content here on YouTube and indeed on Twitch. So follow, get ready for all that stuff. Subscribe, leave your comments, like the video, watch my stream on Twitch, subscribe on YouTube, and of course, I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy, gamers, and I'll see you in the mists.